Yeah, everything is fast tracked.
Yeah.
Everything. I mean, even when you stream a show, oh, you can have this for just a couple extra bucks. It's not that much, but you miss the advertisements. That's what they want. Everything is fast tracked. And I feel like dating has become that way. And even in relationships, I always wonder what social media has done to relationships because are we building or are we breaking down those relationships? I mean, even little things like we talked about before we were recording, are we communicating or is it an argument? Everything in life now has to be, you're arguing with me, this is a red flag and I'm out. Versus,
Hmm.
even my grandparents' generation, if you had an issue, you talked about it, which is communicating. And that goes with everything. But it's also, how are we communicating? Are we doing it in a healthy way? Because I don't think with social media, we know how to have healthy conversations anymore.
No, we don't. And you're allowed to, behind the guise of it, be cruel or be short or whatever that is. I think you're right. I think that's actually a really good point. Like, so the role social media has played in all of this too. It also doesn't help, at least it doesn't help me. And I find myself a little juvenile about some some what I'm about to say, but like I I just feel like so many people share the highlight reels of their relationships or their life, and they can glamorize anything. And you can glamorize being a single person, you can glamorize being married, you can glamorize being in a relationship, but very rarely does that accurately represent any relationship, I would say, friendship, family, partner, whatever that is. But people just, you go on it, and this is where I get juvenile. I'm like, I'm so sick of seeing how happy these people are in their relationships. And like, it kind of, even though I know better, there's this piece of me that's like, well, I want something like that. And then it kind of like,
Hmm.
and you internalize it a little bit, even though you know better.
But that's part of that crack. That's what they want, is because we show the good. We kind of got into that flow and that system of show the good because look at what's happening everywhere else. Show the good. Well, then when you see that, you're like, oh, I want that. So I'm going to go find it on this platform or I'm going to go on a dating app or we're always behind our phones. And it's something that even with, I had a conversation just the other day with one of my friends that's a new mom. She's like, we're judged all the time based on what our content looks like. And I always tell people take a 1 week, it has to be 7 days, take a break, disappear.
Hmm.
You have to do a post. So again, that responsible part of you is like, not like I'm just leaving. But I always talk to even big creators and I'm like, what do you owe people? And they're like, well, I'm like, because you've already
Hmm.
started off in the wrong mental health space. What do you owe people? Because if you're in a healthy kind of repertoire of what your schedule is and you don't see that as an addictive aspect, your answer to that is, I don't owe anything to anyone. I owe it to myself first. So are you
Yes,
doing
thank you for
it for the right reasons?
that. I mean, I couldn't have said that better myself. That's so well said. And I think that when you're a creator, which I tried to take the advice of people who were telling me what to do to be, quote, a creator, and it wasn't the content. Like, I never post anything, out of my character or anything like that, but it was like not appealing to me and not serving me to like post stuff for other people. And what is appealing to me, and again, I went through this, what is appealing to me is like posting stuff that makes me feel like I'm being heard or I'm sharing something important or sharing my perspective on something, or, a lot of times a meme or something that, makes sense for people to see from my perspective. So I do agree with that. And that's a good point with the creators. I think there's a little bit of like people pleasing in there as well that shows rears its ugly head in these situations. But what would you say, when would you say like the light clicked? Because now you're coaching people, you're helping people get started. You're going to have a lot of, you are already, I'm sure, having a lot of conversations with people that are going to take that creator from social and it's going to become creator for podcasting. When did it click for you on how to handle this and how do you convey that more so to others?
I think it was when I was scrolling on social platforms and there was this giant shift of COVID is over and now we're being forced out of our homes. We're being forced to have those hard conversations in person. How do we do that? I saw a lot of friends of mine that were creators with millions of followers, and they were like, I don't know how to get back out there. And I'm like, we don't know how to be human beings without a phone. And I'm like, wow. And so doing the research and talking to people and really being transparent and vulnerable on social media, I would always ask, what is your biggest dream that you know is so beyond unreachable right now, no matter what it
Hmm.
is? And everyone kind of was all over the place, but they were like, I want to do this and that. And I said, what is stopping you from trying? And it was always this fear of what are other people going to think.
Yeah.
It was never this internal, like, I don't have the money, or I don't have the smarts or the brains, or I can't do technology, nothing like that. And so I started coaching people to do a podcast. And I always tell people, it doesn't matter the number of listeners you have. It doesn't matter the topics you want to talk about. There's always going to be one person that's going to love what you do, and there will always be one person that judges you for what you do. It just depends on, it's like a swing set. Are you going to go on
Hmm.
that side, or are you going to swing on this side? You ultimately have the choice. And it's been the best jump off I've ever done. I mean, I do topics that are I'm scared to death to do,
I bet.
but I learn something all the time. I mean, I will do wrongful convictions. I do a lot of, domestic violence. I will do happy and sad. But it's something where I tell people, you never know until you try something. Are you doing the approval so that you'll be proud of yourself? Or are you waiting on the world to give you that sense of satisfaction and that affirmation you can do something? Because if you wait that long, you're never going to do it.
You'll never do it. And you got to have sort of this recollection, I guess, with yourself. And this is, I had to recently do this because I almost quit my podcast at the beginning of the year. I I just I felt like I wasn't getting the reach, the shadow banning, the censorship. It's a lot of pressure to do some of the things that I talk about, but I feel at the same time like I have a duty to do it. But what I really realized, and I know I talked about this on your show, is that I'm actually doing this for me, and where more so than I'm doing it for other people, and that's why I'm not able to give it up because I enjoy talking like this. I enjoy having real conversations. I hope people find value or something helpful that comes out of it. And that to me is me giving a way that I like to give back to the world to try and leave it in a place better than I found it, which is so, I've really realized even with all the reality TV work is I just feel this innate need to like contribute to society and leave things better than I found them. And, as you've said, when you have something to say, speak up. Like that's something that I've had to learn to do more of, but now it's, part of my ethos and who I am. But I think it's hard for people to really get to that point. And the way you break it down there is so simplistic and like easy to understand that anyone can understand it. And anyone can use that as a launching point to start looking inward and find out what's your why. And it should be about you, not about other people. And other people
And
will find value in that.
it's your safe house. I mean, I can
Mm,
tell when you and I do, like, even here or when you came on mine, it's a sense of comfort. Our homes are should be our sense of comfort. Our four walls are our comfort. So when you find something you're passionate about and you're not censored and you're not watched and you're not critiqued, because those all go into it,
yeah,
make your social platform, if that's maybe where you feel most comfortable and you're happy and you get good mental health feedback for yourself, not for other people, but for yourself,
yeah,
make that your home, make that your comfort space. If you have a podcast, make it comfortable. You're not here to please the world, because no one ever on their deathbed says, I wish I would have worked harder at that. I wish I would have done this differently. I wish I would have listened to this comment. Or, like, for me, it was the hardest thing. I'm like, I am talking about very sensitive, hard subjects. It's
yeah, you are.
things that people don't want to talk about. So I already knew jumping out of, am I going to get really negative feedback? Yes. Is that going to make me feel passionate about what I'm doing? No. So how do I stop it before it starts? No comments allowed. And I didn't feel guilty. I think that's also
Shouldn't
true.
feel guilty.
Protecting yourself, saying no, turning those notifications off, and being passionate about what you're doing. That the first probably 6 to 7 months of my podcast, I did what everybody wanted. I did the podcast topics. I allowed the comments. I did what the listeners wanted. And I saw a roller coaster. People connected and didn't connect because I wasn't being true to myself.